Today it's Sunday, and when it's Sunday, it's Sierra Hotel One Tango set Sunday. And today's Sierra Hotel One Tango set is another GT868. As you know, there's a lot of GT868s and GT858s from the Taiwan manufacturer. Great, and of course, great refers to the brand name and not the quality of the product. Now, I paid quite a lot of money for this. I'm absolutely convinced I paid 35 quid plus off eBay because it was supposed to be in working order, and it's got the original mic with it, and it's got a full length power lead, and I couldn't get one anywhere else. It had been on the list for years, and it's the Johnson GT868. And the Johnson, to my mind, was one of the first GT868s to be offered. It's the only set they did. It was sold by a company operating from Star Warehouse down in London, a warehouse which has long been demolished, and they did this for $49.99. This is at a time when Barracuda's GT868 was $69.99, so it broke that £50 barrier, and it was something which was available day one. It did a base station power supply which it slotted into. We've got a couple of those, not the Johnson ones, but we've got a couple of different slot-in power supplies that were doing the rounds at the time. We must do something on that at some point. Certainly there were 2 or 3 of them, and the Johnson one was one of those, but not one we've got. So it's got a yellow sticker. Now, I don't think we've shown a set before with a yellow sticker. That means Mark's tested it, and it works, but it's what we deem to be trade working, so it needs alignment in some respect or other, but it's basically working. Serial number 272, and it quite clearly says it's a GT868. Now then, this could be the reason behind the yellow sticker. Out of a grinning top plate come 2 wires. Now, considering it has an extension speaker socket and a public address speaker socket on this version, what are those wires for? And that's probably what the stickers are all about. Now, it's got one fixing. Let's hope they've got the short bolt in and not the long bolt, because if you remember, these radios came with a short bolt and a long bolt. If you put the long bolt into the wrong one, it didn't tell you which one went in which, you could end up by breaking, was it T6, one of the coils. So of course nowadays, no spare parts, it wouldn't be easy to get a replacement. It would have to be a scrap set. So I'll just open this bottom up because I'm so intrigued. I want to put the case through the dishwasher, so I'm going to kind of do that. I'm going to get the cases off quickly, get the speaker removed, and I'll put the mic casing through the dishwasher, as well as the front panel and knobs off this. We've had this kicking around now for at least 6 years, so I said I did pay full whack, but I'm sure it won't be regretted. So we have a speaker which says great on it, and if you look at this, do you know what? Isn't that lovely condition? Even the tin plate really shines, and usually they're rusty on these by now. So we'll put that to one side. I just want to see where this wire goes. Of course, it would go in the other lid, wouldn't it? You know, I've been doing these new sets, so been trying to crack on with a couple of new sets a week when time permits, and all this menu thing and Squelch on a sub menu and all that kind of stuff. Do you know, I actually look forward to Sierra Hotel One Tango set Sunday, because at least I know they're honest sets and they have an on-off volume control and have a squelch control, and you're actually allowed to turn more than one knob at once without the computer locking up. Okay, so what is it? Okay, well, it looks like another wide-in extension speaker. A hardwired extension speaker. It's right on the connections there. Oh no! No, it's hardwired into the PA socket. So it's not wired into the extension speaker socket, because that would be those three connections. So somebody got that onto a PA speaker. Well, all we can do is unsolder it. Because you never know what they've done. You don't know whether they've done a 12-volt feed or something even scarier than that. Just trapping it through the case, it is far from ideal. Yeah, don't know what they've smashed up to get the bit of wire off. My retired friend Bob spotted a Dynatron radiogram on quite a compact one on eBay, and he won the auction. And it was a really posh rosewood little case and made to look like a gun case when closed. And the bloke, I think we paid 25 quid for it, something like that. I went down to Melton Mowbray with Bob to pick it up. I'm going back a couple of years. When we got there, the bloke said, well, I was going to smash it up, I like the switches on it. Has it struck him that you can buy all these switches quite readily from people who sell electronic components? You don't have to smash something up to go and get a few switches. And that just reminded me, somebody has smashed something up to get that bit of wire, and you think, well, you could have just bought a bit of wire. Anyway, that's how people, illogical to me, seem to go on. Now that's the coil that if you put the wrong, so you've got the mounting stud just there, and if you put the wrong, and so it's in upper right, if you put the wrong screw in there, imagine that screwdriver's a screw, and it pushes that can over and snaps the works inside. Anyway, this does look pretty immaculate, and I'll stop the video and we'll get the cases into the dishwasher. Forthcoming attractions this week will be the realistic TRC 2000. I was very kindly given a scrap one by Eddie. It's pretty knobless, but I particularly want to have a go with that, which is of course the same as a Unit N200 audio line big version. And we'll be doing a Maxcom 7E this week as well. That's probably going to be walkie-talkie Wednesday, because you can use it as a walkie-talkie as well as just an emergency set. So I think that's two of the attractions we've got. There are repairs, you know, and there is the church organ side of things, so things have to be slotted around, especially now as I am back at church and I've got a funeral this week to do. Remember, when I do funerals, I don't know the person who's passed away. You know, for Adam, it's just purely my job as a church organist. Right, so we have the power supply set to 13.8, and we'll switch it on. And it was last used on 19. Wow, and a dimmer works. And I can't hear anything coming out of the... Oh, of course I can't hear anything coming out of the speaker. We've unsoldered it. And I haven't yet plugged in the extension speaker. second one, isn't it? I think. Bit of dirt on the volume control there. We'll soon get that dealt with the service hole. Right, so it's back to this. Now the mic is in the dishwasher, so I've got the button to press there. Now remember, anything over 1.7 watts is acceptable on these. And it's a 3.5 watt radio. And this one, oh, he's doing a good 3 watts. Okay, well that's all right then. So, on as ever on these, as I'm looking for the trimming tool, somebody suggested I wore a lanyard around my neck with the trimming tool on, and they're right there. Here we go. So the first coil to do is 207 L4 5 6 7 8, and then we start with the two with the hex. We don't touch L12. That's interesting. There isn't an L12 isn't as normal. L12 is just a preformed coil. Okay. It's early production, you see. I'll switch the other camera on so we can see the power meter of the Marconi test set. And as ever, we're looking, that's 5. Just there. So 4 is just there. So I'll press the button. Remember, these are minute adjustments. You know, the meter on the test set could be moving 1/4 millimeter, and it's being able to see that and having the dexterity to twiddle your fingers just so. So far we've gained no more. It's just that shade away from 3. As it's warming up, the power drops, and that's quite normal. So it's a hexagonal one next. So it's the green tool. My goodness, has this got a built-in burner? It's doing 3.4 watts. This is going to waltz around Scratchy Corner. .6 watts. So I'll just go back on that previous one. .6 watts when warm. Alright then. So let's make sure that the meter says something like where it should. And it should be in the centre of the red zone. It isn't quite. So we'll just bring that up with the preset, which I can't see. it's centre of the red zone. And it's centre of the red zone, whether it's doing 2 watts or 4 watts or whatever watts, that is where it's supposed to be set. I keep saying these are relative RF meters, so that you know where it normally is, and if you saw your SWR change dramatically, that meter would be affected. So it's useful. It is useful to have. I'm just going to flick to low power. Let's see what it does on low power. Now, it's not adjustable, so it's just a matter of verifying that it works. Should be 0.4 of a watt. It's 0.2 of a watt on this radio. Yep, that's what it is, and that's fine. That's within spec. Very useful if you're in a convoy. You know, you got your mate in front. If you start pumping out 4 watts and your mate's in front, unless they've got an RF gain, it's going to cause feedback and all kinds of things. So it is useful to be able to switch to low power, but of course with the switch being on the back, it's not that useful. Okay, so let's have a look at whether it's on frequency or not. So I'll move the other camera, the small inset, over to the frequency counter. We should be looking at 27.79125. 7915556. That's slightly high, which is interesting, because with crystals dropping with age, you would expect that now these are approaching 40 years old, that they would have dropped. So maybe it has had a bit of service work at some point. So I've switched it off. We'll just try and unsolder the bit of can there. Not always easy to unsolder. Haven't forgotten about our power supply project. You know, we're on those banned, for safety reasons, Taiwanese power supplies from 1980-81, and I'm done the printed. Well, Mr. Chippy's done the printed circuit board master. So we photocopied the printed circuit board, which we had in the unit we're playing with, and we want to replicate that. So photocopied it, and then what he's done is to use one of these paint type software packages to kind of redraw that so that it's absolutely black and absolutely white. And then what we do is to print that out onto an acetate, and then with that being see-through, we can photographically produce printed circuit boards. And I'll do that with you. When I came to look, the printer we've got at the moment here is an inkjet printer. We've put away, as you know, we're having building work done, we've put away the LaserJet 2 printers, and we've just got an inkjet printer here. What I've had to do is to order some acetate, which is printable with an inkjet printer. The only acetate we got was for the laser printer. So that should turn up about Tuesday, and we'll print it onto exactly the right size that we want onto the acetate, and then we'll go through that photographic process, which you can do at home without expensive equipment. And I'm going to do it 2 ways. I'm going to do it with the professional equipment we've got, and then I'm going to do it the kitchen table method, except we haven't got a kitchen table, but you know what I mean. Right, so we're going to set the frequency, and it's the trimmer in the right hand corner here, which is 120 CT200, I seem to recall, not the one on the left, which is the VCO. So I'll go into transmit and just see if we can trim that frequency. Oh, it looks like I'm heading in the right direction. We'll keep it there, because as I say, they drop with age. I'll switch it back off, and we'll put that can back on. There's nothing worse than sending one of these back to the customer, although this one's ours, but you know what I mean. And you suddenly find the can on your bench and the radio's gone back. And I would say that 30% of these that we see have got the can missing. This isn't to seal it up for some secret reason. It's to stop microphony, and that's where you tap the radio and it transmits that tapping. Some business radios are very susceptible to that. Well, of course, that's because they're on VHF or UHF, where the techniques are more difficult, shall we say. Right, so that leaves us with deviation. So we'll get a little oscillator out, and we'll drop the ESR meter onto the bench from the shelf. Think I've only ever changed one capacitor in one of these ever. Thinking about ESR. Okay, let's set this up. Wallow. Oh, looks like we've got no audio. Wallow. Wallow. Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Well, I don't know whether we've got a dirty switch in the mic or whether we've got a dirty preset. So we'll just do SVR 3, which is the deviation. So at the moment, it's so quiet. Now, something wrong there. This could be why it's got the sticker. I'll get our monitor receiver, our little realistic 1003, and I'll just see whether I can hear myself. So with the little monitor receiver here, let's see if I can hear myself. Hello, testing 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Very, very insensitive. So we have to determine whether it's the microphone that's faulty. 1, 2. Or whether there's a fault on the radio. So I'm going to start by shorting out the switch, because the microphone on these switches, you have got 6 contacts. Let's see if we can zoom in on this. Wrong camera. Silly me. In fact, we'll get rid of that. Right. So it's what we call a double pole, double throw switch. By poles, it means you've got 2 separate switches operated by the single plunger. And by double throw, it has 2 functions. It changes over. So at the moment, it's in its receive position, its rest position. And so this contact is the actual microphone. So that's connected to one end of the microphone. And when we press the transmit button, it goes across to the white wire, which is the center. So center to there would be transmit. So white to nothing would be the receive, and of course we don't want it to do anything on receive. They run these through so that you can operate with a telephone handset on a CB radio. So traditionally that's the way it's done. And sometimes that's the only way the public address system is keyed. And the other one, in this case, we've got the green wire is common as in the center. So in receive, it goes down the black wire. That's connected to 0 to ground. So it grounds the black wire in receive, and in transmit it grounds the red wire sending it into transmit. So the fact that the microphone goes through the switch, sometimes a duff microphone is simply a dirty switch. Now I've just cleaned the switch, but what we're going to do is I can just jump her across that, can't I? Like that. So now we're going to transmit and see whether we've got deviation. Hello, 1 2 1 2 Warlow. No, we haven't. So my next thing to do, I'm just going to put my finger on it and see whether it will transmit my finger. So I'll just use any old screwdriver, and I'll just go into transmit again. And I'm not getting anything on that contact. Not like I should do. So I do the same by touching the microphone socket, and I'm just going to widen the picture, move the camera over a fraction, so we can actually see the microphone socket. I don't know which is to transmit, and I don't really care. So I'll just go through until it does what I want it to do. Now then, that is a really loud. That's what I'm expecting. So we've either got a broken wire or a wire off. So for a start, I'll unsolder the microphone wire from this switch. So now it's open and not possible that it can be earthed. So going to transmit. No loud buzz or anything. But back on that terminal, loud buzz. So my next thing to do will be to unplug the microphone, take the plug apart, and see whether we've got a wire off inside there. I'll pause the video. So it is correctly wired, just in case it wasn't. Receive, transmit, audio, and then screen. So I'll plug it back in. Now I've taken that off, and it's the white wire which we're concerned about. So I'll press transmit. I'll touch that white wire in the plug. I'll touch the white wire at this end, and we've got nothing. So the mic lead is open circuit on the transmitted audio. And how frustrating is that? Well, there's nothing for it but to... I'll tell you what should we do? I think we'll put a new mic lead on it on this occasion rather than a different mic, with it being the original one. So I'll pause the video while I make up a new mic lead for this. The only mic leads we have in stock are the 3 metre ones, so it's now, instead of 1.8 metres, it's a ridiculous 3 metres in length. And let's see whether I've wired it up correctly. Put it back together, and the dishwasher's done, so we've now got it nice and clean. Well, it receives, which proves I've got 2 wires right. transmits. It proves I've got 3 wires right. So does it transmit audio? Testing 1 2 1 2 1 2. Still not very well. So let's see what whether the deviation's out. Wallow. Perhaps there's another fault. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Wallow. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2 1 2 1 2. Now there can of course be multiple faults, and we know that that mic lead was open circuit. So we're back to opening the mic up, and this time we're going to check the insert with the peak LCR45 impedance meter. So we'll put one of the connections onto earth and one onto the actual microphone insert connection. Okay, so it says 577 ohms, which is what we'd expect. And we can hear the meter. If I put this up to one of the microphones, oh, we're only on one channel. Sorry about that. As you can hear that. Yeah, I borrowed the microphone for church this morning. So we're on the left-hand channel only, I think. So, yeah, that's set. So the insert's okay. So we'll put that back together again. What's interesting, you see, is that the audio on the mic lead was definitely open circuit, and so the mic lead was definitely faulty, but we still have no audio, or very, very restricted audio. And I find that kind of thing fascinating, how there can be a multiple fault, that there is a multiple fault. Testing 1 2 1 2. Right, well, we'll better start looking elsewhere. So the easiest way to fault find this is to switch the radio to PA and use it as a public address amplifier. And so here we are, public address, and nothing comes out of the speaker. Very, very low. I can just hear it coming out of the speaker. So we know we've got a problem. And that eliminates things like the deviation control and all that kind of the circuit. So as a public address amplifier, we're only looking at this part of the circuit. So we've got the speaker to the output of the audio chip, the TA7205. But we know that all works because we can hear the radio receiving. When I turn the volume up, switch it back to receive, we can hear that. We know that works. So the microphone comes in from pin 3, goes through the 8K2 resistor, and it goes into a single transistor there. It also goes into another transistor, which is probably to do with the actual transmitted audio. We're not looking at transmitted audio. We know we've got no audio on the audio side, you know. So the whole preamp thing isn't working. Now, some of the things that can fail, and I said at the beginning of this video, I've never had electrolytic capacitors fail on this chassis, But I'll tell you what, there's two electrolytic capacitors there, which if they went short circuit, would block the audio from getting to the audio amplifier, or certainly most of it. So you know what, we're going to change those two before we start delving in with more test equipment, because the next stage would be to put a signal injector on that, which we do have. So I'm going to just change those two electrolytics, because why not? They're 9p each. Okay, so we'll put those two capacitors in. So it was the 220 microfarad one down there, which is, what did we say? Go back to the circuit diagram. So that was 105, capacitor 105, and the 33 microfarad one there, because it goes out without saying the new ones are much smaller, and that is 33 microfarads, both at 16 volts. So we're in public address mode, so let's see now. Testing 1 2, waha, 1 2. Yeah, right, so I think we've got audio now. So we'll go back onto transmitter, switch for that. Let's see whether we can hear it on the monitor receiver. Testing 1 2 1 2 1 2. Still very quiet. So let's just sort the deviation out. 1 2 1 2 wallow 1 2 wallow. We'll turn the monitor receiver off and just do the deviation. So switch the other camera back on. Just move camera 2 across, and 2.4 deviation, 2.2, sorry, what am I talking about? There's 2. Wallow, wallow. So get the oscillator, then we just get it spot on. Unplug the extension speaker, set that for about 1.8 and we'll try it from there. Wallow, wallow. It's a bit too high, that, so we'll just drop that a bit. Let's try it there. 1 2 1 2. Wallow. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. That's fine. So it just goes to show that, yeah, I don't know which capacitor was faulty, but one of them was, and at 9p each, I'm really not bothered. Right, I'll get the front back on the radio, so just pause that while we put the front back, and then we'll go on to the receiver. Right, we'll move on to the receiver. So I'll pop the camera onto the cyanide meter. We'll take a note of how it is as presented to us. I think there's probably nothing now wrong with the set. There was clearly no transmitted audio. That's been sorted, and that will be why the radio has been discarded and then sold for me as fully working and top whack on eBay. It's a shame I didn't sort it out within a week of buying it, because there's nothing better than to be able to put in the comment what you've done to sort it, like no transmitted audio, change to capacitors 18p, and that really can annoy them, I've no doubt. I bought a ham radio Yaesu FT290 once from amateur radio licensee in I think it was Guernsey, and paid about £65 for it, which was quite a good deal at the time. And when it arrived, it was jammed in transmit, and it turned out to be a Duff transistor from the Morse key input socket, changed at 9p. then the received audio was really strangled. It turned out the audio chip was faulty. And that was £7.50. It wasn't that free, but you know, that was it. So less than £8. I did have it sorted out. So I put on the feedback, no transmit caused by, you know, transistor such and such, strangled audio caused by IC, whatever it was. Total repair cost £8. And he was clearly really embarrassed. Well, I thought it was working. Well, do you want to No, I just sorted it. I bet he was really cross that he'd sold me out for £65 with a £8 fault. So we're going to put down on here our usual 3 parameters: 20 dB synad, the industry standard 12 dB synad, and 10 dB synad. And we'll put down arrived, and we'll do it for 12 dB synad, and we'll just see what that's reading. So make sure the RF gain's at full. It does help. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm going to be improving on that. It is 0.64. It's just changed as I've moved. We'll give it the better figure then. 0.49. These are always sensitive. They're downfall really. Okay, so we'll drop the signal off to about 4 decibels. Okay, that's the front end done. It's gone to the IF. Now that strange detector. Need a bit more signal for that. Right, we'll take those readings again. So, 20 decibel. Is 1.7 microvolts. 12 decibels, change scales, is 0.5. So it's the same. And or I fixed it worse, one or the other. And 10 decibels, 0.47. So that's fine. Now we'll look at that S meter. I'd like this to be S9 for 100 microvolts. If you can remember which preset it is. It's the bottom one, nearest me in other words. Yeah, it's a bit sensitive. So that's as low as it goes, it's just over the S9. And now we'll do the squelch. So I'll pop the camera onto those attenuator controls. So at the moment we're on 100 microvolts. I'm going to turn the signal generator off, set threshold. There we are, threshold. And I'm going to set the signal generator for 0.3 of a microvolt, switch the signal generator back on. Now it didn't come in, that's just how it works. So let's see. So it's coming in at 0.5 of a microvolt, and it's going at 0.35 of a microvolt, which is excellent. So let's turn the squelch to the opposite end. We'll turn it to full squelch. Now we'll see what signal we need to open it. It wants to be 100 microvolts or around about. So that's 1 microvolt, 3 microvolts, 10 microvolts, 30 microvolts, 100 microvolts. It's spot on. If it wasn't spot on, we'd be adjusting the preset just there, which is SVR1. So absolutely spot on, never been fiddled with. I don't think the radio has been fiddled with. It's got no audio, it's been fixed, and hey, there we go. So I will put a bit more of it together, and I think I'll have a cup of tea in my Sierra Hotel One Sunday mug. Okay, so it's all back together now. So original mic, silly long lead. Still need to get the we'll get a chemical cleaner on this. It's had those double-sided pads. We've got something which will do that. It's all nice and clean, looks like new, and we'll have a flick round. Well, yesterday we one line for Roger. We'd arranged for Stuart, the electric man, who's a radio ham friend of mine, who happens to be camping half a mile up the road with his family. We arranged for him to be on 19 and had a quick chat. Then he joined us on the air test yesterday, and I have arranged for his son Noah to give me a Roger. And so I'm going to just pause the video for 2 minutes while we come up to 4 o'clock. It's Sunday afternoon, and that's the time I've arranged for Noah to give me a Roger. I can't remember how old he is, but I think he's about 9. So known him since he was born. It's rabbiting away. We've got that sensitivity which we have on these sets. So as I'm monitoring 19, waiting for exactly the right time, I can hear the burner brigade 35 miles away. So here we go. It's now coming up to that kind of time. We're on 19. 19 Roger.
19 Roger.
Oh, you a Roger as well? Well, that wasn't the Roger I was expecting, so obviously I haven't spotted my email. Never mind. We'll do an on-the-air test later on. Just give it one more go.
Roger day, Roger day.
Tango 21, Noah, do you copy? Just check they're not on 31. Tango 21, Noah, do you copy? One final time. Tango 21, Noah, do you copy? Oh dear, well it didn't work out, but we got a Roger from somebody else. There you have it, the Johnson GT868 now lives to see another day. Isn't it lovely how working it was when I bought it off eBay? Just like they said it wasn't. Thank you for watching.